We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome, baseball community. Coach Bo here, pumped up to be here with all of you. We got the top 5 X coaching posts of the month. A lot to learn about coaching from these 5 posts. We got a great quote to share with you from a super old school baseball player, and I think this is a message that we need to be sharing with our players early and often. Also, next week, I will be recording an interview with a coach who's been coaching baseball for over 40 plus years. A lot of youth baseball, has written multiple books on coaching. So I'm excited to bring that to all of you. Now, before we jump into the top 5 coaching posts of the month, but sticking with the theme of 5, this is our 5th anniversary. The first episode of this podcast came out 5 years ago. And when I started it, I was just putting the articles from the website into audio form. And then I added a few more episodes on some of those topics. And I started getting really good feedback. Coaches were emailing me, telling me that they really liked the show, really liked the podcast, and we're getting a lot out of it. So I just kept going with it. So we are at our 5-year anniversary, 5 years strong doing this podcast, and I'm pumped up to keep it going strong with good interviews, good content, and also fine-tuning and improving upon the message that we've brought here for the last 5 years to take it to another level. As coaches, we never stop learning. We never stop getting better. And as a podcast, we're going to keep getting better. We're going to keep iterating and getting our coaching message better and better. So I'm excited for what the future has in store. But yeah, 5 years. We still have original listeners who listen to the show week in and week out. Feeling pretty good about that here at 80-20 Baseball. I'm looking forward to the next 5 years being even stronger and better. We don't know what the future fully has in store for any of us, but the plan is to keep rocking this podcast and keep improving it, keep getting better, keep giving you a reason to come back each week as we fine-tune and improve our coaching game, our parenting game, and just our overall game moving forward. All right, 5 years, and now time for our top 5 X coaching posts of the month. Let's come out of the gate swinging here. The first X post, I can't help but think of a wide receiver running a route when I say X post. But if I say X coaching post, then it's like, these guys are all ex-coaches. Coach Bo, why are you feeding us information from dudes who are ex-coaches? How about some current coaches? Or at least former coaches, but ex-coaches? Yeah, I'll tell you, Elon really messed up the top 5 coaching tweets of the month segment, but I guess when you're building self-driving electric cars, rockets to Mars, solar roofs, tunnels under large cities, brain chips, I will cut Elon some slack on this. But if somebody else messes with one of our segments on this podcast and isn't running at least 5 world-changing companies, we're going to have to hash it out. So number 1 on our top 5 X coaching posts of the month, this comes from Coach Bechler. I'm not sure if it's Bechler or Beckler. Might be Beckler. Becler. Been following on X for a while. Great posts. Recommended follow. Here it is. Mediocre teams have cool players. Great teams have coachable players. I'll tell you what, that's well put in my opinion. This is a message I would share with the team. You want to be a bunch of cool players? You're going to be mediocre. Mediocre teams have cool players. You want to be a great player? You're going to be coachable. You want to be a cool player? You're going to be mediocre. I know it's a generality. I'm sure there's some cool players out there who are great, but by and large, this holds true. If you're too cool for school, you're going to be a 1.5 GPA. And if you're too cool for practice, if you're too cool to be coached, it's very likely you'll be a mediocre player. So Coach Bechler coming out swinging here. Mediocre teams have cool players. Great teams have coachable players. Number 2, this is by @FredDuncan, @Fred_Duncan. He posted this November 17th. It's a quote from Charlie Francis, who's an old school coach, very well known, especially in the track and field world, has written some time-tested books. Here's the quote from Charlie Francis that Fred Duncan posted. Quote, "I didn't want them training harder. I wanted them to train smarter. I re-examined every drill. If I couldn't find a good reason for keeping it, it disappeared." I think this is something coaches that have been around a little while can definitely learn from. But all coaches, if there's not a good reason to have a drill, it should disappear. Or if you have a better drill for the same thing, The one that's not as good disappears. Unless you're practicing 5 days a week or you're cycling through practice plans weekly, you don't need a bunch of different drills. Make sure there's a good reason to have it, the drill that is, and if not, make it disappear. So Charlie Francis, Coach Francis said, I didn't want them training harder. I didn't want my players, my athletes training harder. I wanted them to train smarter. I re-examined every drill. If I couldn't find a good reason for keeping it, it disappeared. I think there's another good message here, and that is to not get married to a certain drill. Drills are drills are drills. They're not spouses. They're not close friends. They're not our kids. If you think you found a better drill, test it out. If it is better or works better for you and your team and your players, ditch the old one. Move it on. Continually level up your drills. And that can go with certain parts of a drill too. You might find a part of a drill that's better. Level that part up. So you keep the overall drill, but level up a certain aspect of it that you've learned a better way to do. All right. The third one was posted by a bunch of people, and it's Nick Saban talking about hunting dogs versus show dogs. Has your team got a bunch of show dogs or hunting dogs? Or Dodger dogs? Listen to what Coach Saban, one of the greatest coaches of all time, said about two different types of players.
Well, first of all, at this point of the season, when I was coaching a team, I was concerned about, do we have show dogs on the team or do we have hunting dogs? Hunting dogs are focused on discipline, commitment, accountability, doing the right things, getting better. But when you got show dogs, they're worried about how many passes did I catch, what's my playing time. So what the psychological disposition is of your team at this point in the season, that they can stay focused and do the things they need to do to continue to improve and play at a high level and play to a standard together as a group, is the most important thing.
As a coach, if you see players or you have players that are acting more like show dogs, worried about how they did versus the team, or they're worried about superficial stats, or they're worried about how they look, they're more worried about their uniform and their gear, keep an eye out for that. And we want to work to change show dogs to hunting dogs, as Coach Saban says. We want those players that are focused on discipline, being accountable, working to get better, focused on those things that are being coached up, the fundamentals, grinding it out, working hard, putting the team before themselves. So keep this quote in mind when you have those players that are more concerned with the show dog type of things versus those hunting dog type of things. You want kids that are coachable, working hard, hustling, striving to get better at the fundamentals, happy to take rep after rep, not so concerned with how perfect their uniform is, but more importantly, how perfect their hitting approach is, how well they can run the bases, how perfect their throwing delivery is, etc. All right, coaching post number 4 on our top 5 coaching posts of the month, as seen on X. This one comes from the Atlanta Braves hitting coach, 2-time World Series champion hitting coach. He talks about a few things here, and you'll hear his message that don't specifically apply to youth baseball, but listen to his top 3 goals, or the things he considers the top 3 most important things for his offense or as a hitting coach, specifically number 2.
Yeah, I'm a simple guy. I like to keep things simple so that, players can understand. We can have a confident approach. Yeah, I believe in some core principles, and 3 that I'm just got to preach, day in and day out, is game planning, swing decisions, and our movements in the batter's box. Game planning, we have so much information these days, which is great. I love information, but I think that's the art of coaching this day and age, is funneling that information so we have that idea, that one thought that we can go compete in the batter's box. And I think a lot of hitters, they can only think about one thing at a time. What's the most important part? And let's go battle. 2 is swing decisions. You're only as good as the strikes you swing at. I mean, it's basic. And I think you can break that down into 2 groups: is chase percentage, kind of like, can we eliminate some chase? And what are we swinging at for our strengths, in parts of the zone? I think there's some ways we can identify that to get players swinging at their pitches. Lastly is their movement pattern, is the mechanics. Just watching some video, kind of doing some studying here. Some of the injuries cause some players to get out of their swing. The mental affects the physical. And when guys want to do more, we can clean up some of those patterns and get them back into their groove. Not trying to do too much. Have those thoughts where I need to get a hit, or I need to hit a homer here. But I'm going to stick to those 3 principles and, to be consistent with it.
So that was Tim Hires, the new Atlanta Braves hitting coach, 2-time World Series champion hitting coach. The 3 main things for him as a hitting coach and for his hitters: game planning, swing decisions, movement in the batter's box. He likes to keep things simple. He mentioned that he gets a ton of information, and even at the youth level, and definitely high school and college, there can be a lot of information that goes into game planning, or a lot of information that we get about the other team, the opposing pitcher. He says he likes to boil it down to one thing, keep it simple, because even he acknowledges the greatest hitters in the world, much less youth baseball players, can't be up there thinking about a lot of stuff. So game planning, keep it very simple. Swing decisions was the next thing he talked about. He talked about 2 parts there. I'm sure a lot of you caught that. He said swing decisions are eliminating chase, so how few balls can his hitters swing at? And the second part wasn't just swinging at strikes in the strike zone, but what part of the zone that are their strengths. In other words, what part of the zone do his hitters hit the ball well in? Is it up? Is it down? Is it middle? Like a lot of players, it's middle. Some players, it's a little bit lower in the zone. Some players a little higher. Some players a little more away. Some players do a little better in. Overall, it's going to be somewhere around the middle, but it's going to vary up, down, left, right, depending on the hitter and what the hitters show. So he had 2 parts there. Can they reduce the amount of balls they swing at? And also, can they be ready to hit pitches in their hitting zones? Now, what he said was plan A and plan 2 here at 80-20 Baseball. He didn't say it, but that's what he's talking about. With less than 2 strikes, swinging at the pitch we can hit for a hard line drive, not pitcher strikes, not umpire strikes, but hitters strikes, hitters pitches with less than 2 strikes. And then with 2 strikes, when we swing at every pitch, that's a strike, and reduce as much as possible the pitches that are not strikes. This is not easy, and that's why we got to keep it very simple and rep the heck out of this. The third thing he talked about was movement in the batter's box. I think starting with a 50-50 balance, having good posture, athletic posture, having players in a good position to start is a great starting point for coaches. Get the players in a good position that they feel good in, and each player might be a little different. Make sure they have some balance, 50-50 balance, 55-45 balance, relatively balanced front leg, back leg. They should be in a good position and be able to show you that they can move well from that starting point. So I think that's a good starting point. So I thought that was a good video, and I tried to take what they're talking about, the greats, filter it through the lens of youth baseball coaches. Although baseball is baseball at all levels, I do try to filter it down so it's not necessarily less advanced. It's just that we really key in on that 20% that are really important for youth baseball players, hence, the 80-20 principle. Next up, number 5, in our top 5 coaching posts of the month. This comes from Coach AJ at Coach AJ Kings. At Coach AJ Kings, he posted a video of Derek Jeter speaking about failure. This is a video I would show to your older players, maybe all your players, but definitely your older players that the name Derek Jeter resonates a little more with. Man, this is a video that should be played for your players multiple times every year. This clip, it's a short clip. But when you have one of the greatest hitters of all time or one of the greatest players of all time talking about failure the way he talks about it right here, and players hear that, they can't say, oh, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or I know more than he does. They can't say that. Derek Jeter trumps anything a youth baseball, high school baseball, or even college baseball player can say. So let's hear what Derek Jeter said about failing a lot.
One thing in my career that stayed with me the entire 20 years is I was not afraid to fail. I have failed plenty. I failed in spring training. I failed in regular season. I failed in the postseason, the World Series. But I'm not afraid of it. And, I've always had the ability to separate one day from the next. I don't know if that's something that's innate or if it's something that you learn, but I always looked at that as being a strong point.
So the great Derek Jeter said for his entire career, 20 years, he was not afraid to fail. He said, I failed plenty. He said, I failed in spring training, the regular season, the postseason, the World Series. I've failed everywhere, but I'm not afraid of it. These are the types of messages I think that should get piped in to schools instead of the rah-rah stuff all the time. These messages about failure, the real world, reality. So as coaches, playing this message is a good start, letting players hear it. And another thing that's good is coaching up the process more than the results, because typically players can have a lot more success working the process. The amount of times they successfully complete the process, their hitting plan, their hitting approach, etc., that will typically be at a higher success rate than the end result, especially in baseball. But I think we need to think of ways to cultivate an attitude that's not afraid of failure. One of those is getting your players to play freely. Your response as a coach to their mistakes, their errors. Are they looking over their shoulder every time they mess up? That's going to get them afraid to fail, or at least tentative, playing tight. You can't come in clutch like Jeter did and wound tight. And as coaches, we need to do whatever we can to alleviate that tightness that our players have. We can't take away how they're going to perceive their peers and the judgment that their peers might have, or their peers looking at them when they fail. And as a coach, sometimes you can't affect what their parents might say to them that might tighten them up for the next game. But as a coach that's in charge of the environment, or an assistant coach that has a lot of say in the practice environment, the game environment, you can get players to play a lot more freely, a lot less worried about mistakes by how we respond to mistakes and by our messaging, not just what we say, but our body language, and also sharing them messages before they fail that it is going to happen and it is okay. And that ties into this coaching quote, the coaching quote of the week from Christy Mathewson, old school. He was born in 1880 in Factoryville, Pennsylvania. I don't know if Factoryville's still around. I'm sure it is, but that is a sweet name, Factoryville, Pennsylvania. The late, great Christy Mathewson, 17-year career, 373 games won, Baseball Hall of Fame inductee way back in 1936. Pitched 3 complete game shutouts in the 1905 World Series. He pitched 3 complete game shutouts in 1 World Series. Nowadays, if a guy pitches a complete game shutout, he gets the MVP trophy. He pitched 3 complete game shutouts in 1 World Series. He's also remembered for his integrity and sportsmanship. His nicknames included the word gentleman. And here's what he said. You can learn little from victory. You can learn everything from defeat, end quote. Another good message to dial in our mindset. The mindset that can come from this message can actually take losing and add a sense of positivity to it, a sense of productiveness to it, a sense of good. You say, hey, players, I know we're going out there trying to win the game. We're trying to play our best. But in defeat, we can still win in terms of learning more. So we have to look at it more than just numbers on a scoreboard, but how this is getting us to move forward and be better baseball players. So we can learn little from victory and everything from defeat. Christy Mathewson. All right, next week, like I mentioned, I will be recording an interview that I'm excited to bring to you. And also, we are going to discuss a different way of coaching our lineup, a different way, and as I see it, a better way that is definitely counter to how most coaches have always done this and continue to do it. Of course, we don't want to be different just to be different. I'll explain out the reasons behind this different way, as I think is a better way to go. I'll explain the reasons behind it. So, a different way to coach up your lineup. We'll have that next week. Until next week, let's take care of our health so we can take care of our families, our close friends, our teams, our players. Let's take this out there to the field, put it into play. And like any good 2-strike hitting approach, sometimes you just got to put it into play and see what happens. And the good news is, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you start putting this stuff into play within your coaching game. All right, everyone, y'all take care. Until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.